since we didn't finish the book, we're going to learn about what it means to predict, okay? Does anyone have, has heard the word predict before? Piper?
It means you don't read the book first, you write down what you want to predict.
Right, right. So it kind of has something to do with not knowing something, right? Okay, so what we're going to use today is this model. It's called the Frere model, and Jalen, we did this last time. Do you remember? We made 4 squares, and in the left we're going to write definitions of the word predict, and then we have characteristics. Have y'all done this before? You have? Okay. Well, I'm going to give each of you a paper, and I'm going to use the chalkboard. Do you want to get out a pencil? Why don't you get out a pencil for me, please?
I don't have a pencil.
You don't? Jalen, do you have one that she can borrow? If not, I have one, Piper. Can y'all see the chalkboard if I stand like this?
Thank you.
Do you want to use, there's a pencil over here. Would you like to use this pencil? Just in case you make a mistake. Is that okay? Okay. First off, let's talk about the word predict. What part of speech is the word predict? To predict. What part of speech is it? Would you say it is a noun, an adjective, or a verb?
Verb.
Predict. To predict is a verb, but if we add an ION at the end
Adjective.
of the word prediction, at the end of the word predict, then it becomes the word prediction, and that makes it a noun. So, for example, we're not going to write on our models just yet, but for example, if I was going to say, I'm going to predict the weather is going to be rainy tomorrow, that would be a verb, because I'm saying I'm going to do something. It's an action.
The news.
Yes, just like the news. We were talking about that before you walked in, me and Jalen were. But if I said, my prediction is that it is going to rain tomorrow. When I add the ION to the end of the word predict, it becomes a noun because it's my prediction. It's a thing. You understand? Okay, so in this top left corner, we're going to write the definition of the word predict. So give me, in your own words, what you think the word predict means. Piper, you said something earlier. But think about in your own words, what would you say the word predict means, to predict? And you can say it out loud, because we're going to write it on the board here. Do you have any ideas?
Like you're guessing.
Okay. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to put to guess what will happen in the future. Because we're not guessing about what happened in the past, are we? It's something that's going to happen in the future. We're predicting what we don't know yet, but what is going to happen. So if you want to write to guess what will happen in the future for your definition part, go ahead and do that. Does that make sense, guys, what I just said? Take your time. Okay, so let's move on. So we know that the word predict means to guess what will happen in the future. Now we're going to talk about some characteristics of the word predict. And to talk about characteristics, we're just gonna throw out some similes. Do y'all know what a simile is? Can y'all tell me what a simile is? Yeah, Jalen.
Like the same thing.
Yeah. So a simile is going to be a word that has the same or very close definition of another word. So if I was to say chilly and cold, those are kind of similes because they both mean like colder weather. So let's talk about some similes of the word predict. What are some similes? We kind of used one in our definition.
Guess.
Guess. That's a great simile.
Think.
To think. Okay. How about we make that kind of a longer simile of maybe to think about the future? Okay? Because anybody can think about anything. That doesn't necessarily mean you're predicting. But if we think about the future.
Did you get that from the library?
I did. Your library. Have y'all read it before? You have?
I once last week.
Oh no, do you know what happens? Don't tell Jalen. Don't tell Jalen. Okay, so we have to guess, to think about the future. Any other similes?
Well, we didn't find out what was gonna happen to the what he said at the end. Well, he said I'm gonna get you some log because on the first page he had a newspaper and the dog was sitting up there in the chair and the dog didn't know that he was standing right there at the door.
So how is that a simile of the word predict? Can you think of like a word that describes?
Surprise?
Okay, sometimes when we predict we're surprised, but there's a word, do y'all know what the word assume means?
Yes.
To assume, what does that mean?
And then it means tweak.
Okay.
To,
It involves thinking.
like when you assume something, you tell people what is gonna happen.
Yeah, okay. So let's write the word assume, because to assume means to expect something will happen in the future. To assume means to expect that something will happen in the future. So if you want to go ahead and write down these similes, we have 1, 2, 3, and then we have another one that we're going to add in a little bit after we talk about some examples. But go ahead and write down those similes in that top right corner. Okay? You know what, guys? When you don't know a word, it's kind of easy. It's easier. I remember reading books and I wouldn't know what words meant. And so I would ask maybe what a simile of that word is, and then I would replace it. So instead of reading that word, I would replace it with a simile. So I could say, I'm going to predict that the weather is going to be rainy tomorrow, and I could say, I'm going to guess that the weather is going to be rainy tomorrow, and y'all might understand that better. Okay, you ready to move on? Jalen, did you write down all your similes? It doesn't look like you did, bud.
I need some pencil.
You need another pencil? Okay. That's okay, you just had to tell me. Here you go, look. You got a cool eraser.
Thank you.
Is that going to work out better? Y'all are doing a great job. Thanks for focusing this morning. I know it's early.
I had some hot chocolate.
You have to. I love hot chocolate. I predict that I'm going to have hot chocolate later on today because you said that. Okay, you ready? You did? I love it. I love it with the marshmallows. That's my favorite. Okay, so for examples, let's talk about some jobs. Y'all have already said some jobs in the real world that involve making predictions. Sorry, I had to check on my. Okay. What are some jobs that people have to predict? We already said. You said two.
They predict when they predict they're gonna do they're gonna build this big place.
Okay.
Or one time this lady at the trick or treat thing, we went to her thing and then she had this big glass wall and she was trying to predict our future.
Yes, that is called a fortune teller. You can find those, at the circus. That's a great example, Jamie.
I went to one before and my friend went to one and it said you're gonna be older soon and
Well, duh, you're gonna be older soon.
and then when he woke up the next morning he couldn't fit in his pants.
No way.
When he looked in the mirror he had a beard.
Oh my goodness. So some predictions aren't always good, huh?
Yeah.
Okay, those are some great examples. Okay, Piper, you said something earlier about what we'll watch it on TV sometimes. Who else makes predictions? We watch it comes on Channel 2. The weather, that's good. So weatherman. Man, y'all are on top of it this morning. Okay. I'm thinking, I have two more in my head. I'm thinking of one that it's a person and they come on ESPN and they talk.
Sportsmen?
Sportscasters. Do you ever try to predict who's going to win the game?
Yes. Adam.
You don't, Jim? Sounds like Piper does. Okay. And then there's a last one. And I'm going to say a good predictor is a scientist.
Yes.
Because scientists make hypothesis. Have y'all talked about the word hypothesis in class?
Yes.
Yeah.
We have talked about.
What is a hypothesis?
I forget which one.
A hypothesis is kind of your own, a guess of what is going to happen. So it's really exactly like the word predict. So if you want to add the word hypothesis, I'm going to write it on the board if you don't know how to spell it, to your list of similes, that would be a great simile to add. Hypothesis.
It's a long word.
It is a long word.
It's hard to say.
Try saying it.
Hypothesis.
But look, it's made up of a lot of words we know. Look. Pot, the, sis. Hypothesis.
Hypothesis.
Boom. You got it.
It's
Okay.
like you're saying it in increments.
Okay, this last square, what does it say on the last square that we're going to do? Non-examples. Okay, so this is an example. If fortune teller, weathermen, sportscasters, and scientists are an example, let's think of some non-examples. And so let's think of some opposites of what it means to predict. What's an opposite of predicting?
To forget.
Okay. That could be considered an opposite. I'm thinking more along the lines of factual. Do you know what it means to be factual?
No.
What's a fact?
It's like you got a fact, like say if you found out a fact about a penguin because of its big
Right.
fluff, it got fat.
Okay. So does that mean that penguins may or may not, or does that mean they are for sure?
They're for sure that their fat is in there.
Okay, for sure they store fat right here. Okay, so that's a good example. That's a great example, Piper, of what it means to be factual. So factual is the opposite of predict because factual you are sure of. So we can also write sure of. I'm sure a lot of us say for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. Are you for sure? And that doesn't mean are you predicting? It means are you serious? Are you do you really think that's going to happen? So factual and sure of are two non-examples of predict because they mean that it is absolutely positively going to happen. What are some things that we can be for sure of?
Like you can be sure that you're gonna go, like that
You're gonna win
something.
Okay, how would you know if you are going to win? What happens if you lose? What would be an instance? What would be a time that you were for sure going to win?
Like,
How about if there was 2
Like a
seconds left of a game? Okay, 2 seconds left out of a soccer game and you're winning 5-0. Do you think you're for sure going to win?
nah.
With 2 seconds left, the other team doesn't have any time to score. So are you probably most likely going to win?
Yes.
Yeah. So that's getting close to being sure of and factual. Of course, we're not really having to predict, right? But we still are guessing what's going to happen in the future. Okay, so what I want us last to do, go to the bottom of your model. I'm going to write it over here. And I want us to write our own predictions. Okay? So we're going to start off our sentence like I predict. And I want you to write what you think is going to happen to the end of our story. I predict. And then I want you to go on to say what you think is going to happen to the end of the sweetest fig. And before we do that, I want to talk about a couple things. When we predict something, are we just getting that out of the blue?
No.
Are we just, like, I could say, I predict that the sky is going to be purple.
That really doesn't make sense.
No, it doesn't make sense because when we predict
In the morning,
something.
the sky is purple.
Okay, you're right. Sometimes the sky is purple because the sun isn't up all the way. But when we predict something, we're using knowledge that we already know to guess something that will happen. So I could know that Jalen comes to school every day. Like, he just never misses school. So I'm going to predict that Jalen's going to be at school tomorrow
I am.
because I know that you never miss school. You see how I
Tomorrow's
used
Thanksgiving.
tomorrow? Are y'all having Thanksgiving lunch?
Today.
Today.
That was yesterday.
Okay.
No.
But hey, listen, zone in. So do you see how I use knowledge that I knew to make a prediction? I could say that Piper has dance what's tomorrow? I could say today. Piper goes to dance every Wednesday. So I can make a prediction that Piper is going to dance today because I know that she goes to dance every Wednesday. So think about the book. Think about what you know, what happens when you eat a fig. Think about it and make your prediction on what you think is going to happen. Okay?
What if you have two predictions?
You can write them both, girl. If you need to take some time just to think, you can. But if you want to go ahead and write down, you know what? I'll make my own prediction. But you can't copy me, okay? I'm going to write here. This is the dog's name, if you want it. The dog is Marcel. And the man's name is Bibo. We just don't pronounce the T because it's French.
Biba?
Bibo.
Oh. So you take the T off?
You just don't pronounce it.
It seems so quiet in here.
Isn't it nice though?
Yeah.
Okay, we only have a couple minutes, so after you're done, just put your pencil down so I know that you're done. Okay. Yes. Okay, let's go around and read our predictions. Piper, go first. Read your
I
sentence.
predict that he is going to get sick from the fig.
That's a great prediction. Because we know that do dogs usually eat human food?
No.
Nope. Great prediction, Piper. Okay, what about you, Jalen?
I predict that the man is going to ask the woman for some more figs.
Okay, that's a great prediction because we know that the man is